This was a team effort. Nathan, Chris, Marion, all the family, the Joe Matthews family, Emily Grogan's piece, she wrote a little piece. I read it. She is one of the board members over at Horn Creek Farm. And I was like, oh, that's who Joe is. And when I started looking deeper into it, I started mentioning Joe Matthews' names to this circle, if you will, because obviously Joe's not here. And to tell this story, that was a challenge. It's really tough to tell a story when somebody's not here. A lot of people volunteered. A lot of people heard his name and stepped up. And the family stepped up with all kinds of articles, photographs. So in that essence, it was easy to get the backstory and the story of Joe Matthews. All the folks that I've bumped into and mentioned Joe's name that want to sit down and do the interview. This piece wouldn't be possible without all those people. It's just, I'm so thankful and so grateful. It is such an honor to tell these stories. People don't know. People want to be inspired, and they didn't know that there was this inspirational person that could inspire them. He's right there, and you're watching a story about something that involves your water, involves your history, involves your leisure places that you enjoy, that you take for granted. And then all of a sudden, you mentioned Joe Matthews, played a part in this. And you're going, wow, this is great. I never even thought of that. You think it just magically appears, these things. But it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from the community, from Joe, people's pockets, local businesses' pockets when they were all pitching in to purchase Pilot Mountain. I mean, there's just so many different facets that just, wow. And those people back then, they just, I imagine, pulling out their $10 or $20 or $30 to pitch in. $10 or $20 or $30 back then was a lot of money. And they were pitching in this money to save the mountain. It's just, it was such an honor to tell this story. I like to take you places where you've never been before, involve you as a viewer, and inspire you to do something. Now, if that's what this film did, then we accomplished our goals. Relied heavily upon Nathan, who was instrumental in this piece the whole way, and it's super helpful. And as a matter of fact, I felt guilty because we were trying to keep the station going and at the same time doing this documentary. But he was amazing. Helped me out with wherever I needed help. He's like, what do you need? And so I say, he helped produce this piece. He was very instrumental.
For me, one of the things that was really interesting, I'm from Yadkin County. Joe Matthews was from Yadkin County. And I had never heard of Joe Matthews until I worked for Surry County government, and Chris Knopf mentioned his name to me. And I knew, I had been told by Chris and others what he had done with Pilot Mountain State Park and with the Yadkin River section of Pilot Mountain State Park. But it wasn't until Peter Kolziski started working on this project that that I realized how much more Joe did. And I have to praise Pete. I need to praise Pete 100% for the efforts he put into this. He put a great deal of work into it, a lot of time, care, love, and attention. And he got to know the Matthews family. And what he learned, and then what I learned through Pete's work and the work I did as well, is how humble Joe was. And there's numerous newspaper articles and numerous people still with us today who worked with Joe, where the majority of them said he didn't ask for credit for anything. And that was unanimous. And that part was very unique to me. The other part that was unique is how Joe was from this area, and I had never heard of him. I also thought that was a real shame that our kids in our public school systems hadn't heard who he is, don't know who he is. And I had no idea that basically Pilot Mountain State Park most likely would not exist without Joe Matthews' work. And when you're a kid growing up here, you're just used to it being there. It's just there. And one of the things Pete and I spoke about so often with Pilot Mountain State Park is I have always assumed that with the state park, that the state owns it and the state just decided to buy this land and open this park, right? Well, the behind the scenes story of Joe Matthews and the people he worked with, the Reynolds Company and Haynes and all these companies and private donors and individuals and small businesses, the elbow grease, the time, the number of people involved, over 1,200 entities pledging money. That's just, it's an amazing thing to me. I don't know if something like that could happen today in our day and age. And it's like Coach Diamond said on the documentary, you learn to appreciate people like Joe Matthews.
Back in 2018, the county commissioners appointed a committee to celebrate Surry County's 250th anniversary. We were referring to it as the Scepter Centennial. As part of that, we put together a large committee of local citizens who had an interest in the county's history to plan events for 2020 and 2021. And I'll never forget, we were at the Service Center in Dobson, and we were brainstorming, and we were about finished, and we had kind of written everything down up. I can't remember if it was a whiteboard or some big Post-it notes, and I was standing over there kind of looking at everything, and Marion Venable was standing about, 15 feet from me, and she just stood up all of a sudden, and she goes, "Chris, we can't forget Joe Matthews. We've got to recognize Joe Matthews as a part of the Scepter Centennial." And I knew the name because my days as planning director, I'd seen his name on lots of old correspondence from the regional council here in this part of the state, so I knew the name. But I really didn't know what she meant by that. Well, then the pandemic hit. And our Scepter Centennial, our full-blown Scepter Centennial celebration really never happened. But 21, Nathan had come on board, and he and Marion put together a year and a half of great events. They had to scale it back, unfortunately, but we did celebrate it. But this was something we just didn't get the work in. So when we started Surry on the Go, the county commissioners graciously started that program that Pete and Nathan have really worked hard on over the last couple of years. We were sitting down brainstorming. This is before the channel went live, and we pretty much have to broadcast government and county-related information. But I told Nathan I thought this could be a little bit more. We should tell stories of the people who live here, current and in the past. And I told him the first big documentary I wanted to do was Joe Matthews. We had to circle back to this and make this happen because we didn't want the story to get lost. Because can you imagine a county without Pilot Mountain State Park? And that's what really drove this project. So Nathan and Peter, thank you, because I've seen this and it's phenomenal. And so I hope you enjoy it. So let's get this started. One more announcement. We'd like to call up Senator Eddie Sullivan.
I never knew Joe Matthews. And this is new, a lot of it to me, and we're talking to him and working on a project here. We've been going back and forth, but what I can see, Joe Matthews was a leader. And he was also a servant. That's what a leader is, a servant of people. And he, from what I can tell also in this documentary, he was a salesman. And it looks like he just wanted to quit. He just kept going for the right reasons and to serve the people of this county. And we need more Joe Matthews in this world today, because there's work still to be done. I can remember, I talked with Sven today, saving New River when I was a kid in the 70s, and we had the bumper sticker, Save the New. I remember, I'm from Wilkes County, everybody in Wilkes had Save the New bumper stickers, and they did. And this man was a big part of that. And we do appreciate it. It was a different time, different era, and I think a better time. But anyway, and just a very short presentation here. We have something from the governor of North Carolina. What? The highest award honor given by the governor. Posting in confidence and integrity and learning and the zeal of Joe Matthews, I do hereby present the Order of the Longleaf. And we want to present that to you. Okay. Thank you so much.